strange noise coming through the speaker, and I didn't know if you could connect into the Starliner and let me keep mic and let you hear it. I don't know what's making it, but I don't know if it's something that maybe is connected between here and there, making that happen. But anyway, can you do that?
We can configure that, Butch. Give us a minute, and I'll call you back when it's ready.
Well, hello, and welcome to another edition of Ambient Talkie, a show where we dive into some weird and wacky equipment and wonderful, call it whatever you want, music. I'm Mandy from Two Round Robins, and I hope you're ready for a bit of cosmic, granular synthesis. So, as I've mentioned many times on this channel, one of my favorite aspects of this particular device is its vibrant and incredibly creative community. The passion for script development within said community is almost magical, and I always love showcasing projects that catch my attention. That's exactly why in this episode we're diving into a script that I can only describe as a Lovecraftian creation, an eerie blend of grainy textures and striking visuals. This is Nameless Nightmare. Some of you may not know this, but I am a huge horror fan. I'll devour nearly every supernatural entry in A24's catalog, only to ramble later about how the slow burn art house approach is league above the cheap jump scares, until my friends eventually stop answering the phone. One of my all-time favorite subgenres is cosmic horror, which taps into our primal fear of the unknown, the surreal madness, and the realization of humanity's insignificance in the vast, incomprehensible universe. So why am I bringing up horror? Well, when I first experienced this script and fed it a fairly ordinary field recording, it immediately plunged me into an atmosphere that kinda reminded me of that niche subgenre. This probably wasn't the creator's intent, but here we are, me like a pretentious prick, linking horror elements to a discussion about synths. But anyways, let's just get spooky with it. So, let's give this thing a little spin. Nameless Nightmare. When you first boot it up, you might see that this has quite an impressive visual aspect in the script. So meaning that if you change the engines, which you can do with the encoder 1, you're basically changing the screen as well. And on the screen, we have different representations of our solar system. So we have different planets like Earth, Venus, Mercury, and so on, and stars such as the Sun. But all of these correspond to an engine. And why? Well, because Nameless Nightmare is a granular synthesis type of script. Basically, you feed it a audio file, it takes that audio file and then throws it through the granular engine. And with this, we can basically do that. So if we go here, you can see that we have load. So if I press K2, I can go to my disk on norns and I can choose a little audio for us to play. So let's just go to our random crap folder and we can choose this. So this is a fairly boring, unimpressive type of clean electric guitar. that I played. But the thing is, why I'm choosing this one is because I want to showcase what it does to that particular audio that we just heard, which wasn't very impressive, but this thing makes it sound kind of impressive. So let's start by pressing K3. We can hear that it completely stretched it out, and it's quite bizarre now. Now, one thing to note here, as you can see on this side, so on the left side you see these two little squares, and these little squares are basically the engine control. So you have your primary, so this is basically primary sound of the engine, in this case the Mercury engine, and then you have something that's usually connected to the body of, or to the planet or the star or whatever. In this case we have Vulcan, which is part of Mercury's orbit, I believe. So, and this just adds something else. So if I take away the primary and just use Vulcan, it's just like this little distortion that's in the background. But we can close that engine, move to another one, just for us to, you know, addition it a bit. So as you can hear, Venus in this case has quite a different color to it. And it's quite impressive. Let's try something else. Let's try it with Mars. Phobos is one of the satellites that I believe that Mars has, as well as Deimos. Jupiter. So this is more of a rhythmic, kind of granular mumbo jumbo that we are hearing. Fun. Alright, let's see what else. Saturn. Saturn is quite impressive. Ooh, spooky. Alright. I'm not gonna make a joke here, just so you know, I'm not gonna make a joke, but this is Uranus. And it sounds absolutely beautiful. So, you can hear the guitar quite a bit here, far more than you did with the other engines or the other planets. But, you know. Oh, here as well. So a cool thing here with Nameless Nightmare is that you can stack engines on top of each other. So like you can see here, we have like 3 dots or 3 squares here. So if I open up an engine here like Mercury, and then, or let's say I'm just gonna go with Venus, so this is far more brooding, and then use Saturn maybe, and Uranus. you can mix up to 3 engines, I believe, like this. However, you are gonna hear that we do get some CPU spikes, so you have to be kind of careful how much you're overbearing the processing power of norns here, you know. So always kind of have that in mind when you're doing that, just so your sound doesn't get a bit too crunchy. So yeah, another cool thing that you might see here is basically if you go all the way to the right, you get to Planet X, which isn't a planet where Elon Musk lives. And I know we're talking about horror a bit in this episode, but you know, I don't want to cross the line when it comes to very scary stuff. But Planet X, which is a hypothetical planet, basically is an engine that could be controlled, that can be controlled for all, meaning that if you do any changes here, you are doing changes to both of these engines or 3 engines at the same time. I think more obviously we're gonna see with so let me try to add another engine, so like Venus. And I think this will be, you can hear it, and in the lower there's like we're changing the pitch a bit. So yeah, that's quite impressive. All right. So, you know, if it doesn't have that sense thing there, that just means that it's not active. So with it like this, there's a way that you can basically also sample and record straight into this. So you can do it by holding the K1. And if you have any audio in, you can basically record it. And what this will do, this will take any audio and it will sample like a fairly short part of that. And it will use that in order to throw it through the engines. Now, this might be cool for any of you, but it's not really my thing. So I guess I'll, you know, I mostly just use it to process natural sounds, which I find them very compelling when they go through any of these planets that we see here. So let's say, for example, if I change it back to file loading, we can basically use something. So what I can do is I can go to file here, and let's say, so as an experiment, we can use, let's say, crickets. So this is just a little recording of crickets that I recorded, and I can use that and throw it through the engines. So as you can see, now it's still loading. So let's try to see what's just gonna happen. So that normal recording of crickets in the nighttime becomes something quite different. Maybe try it with Neptune. And this is when it becomes very haunting, as there's a bit of familiarity in the soundscape, but it's far more alien that we're used to it. So this is why I kind of wanted it to link it to cosmic horror in a bit, because it does create that, at least I think, it does create that vastness of familiar unfamiliarity, if that makes any sense. So yeah, let's try something else. What's really cool is that if you use, let's say, something that has more low end. So like this avalanche, which is like a little sound design thing that I did, which has a bit of low end. If I go to, let's say, Venus and open this up, it creates this lovely drone effect. So maybe let's try with Saturn. Ooh. And maybe a bit of Uranus. There's a CPU peak, so be careful with those. Also, I think if you have like, now I'm running it through batteries, but if you have power plugged in, it's not gonna, it's not gonna be as dodgy. But you really need to be careful a bit. Let's try it with a bit of sun. And you can hear that low end just slowly gliding, and it sounds so good. Maybe adding a bit of mercury. And this is how we created our lovely sci-fi soundtrack. So yeah, there you go. A bit of exploration through the planets of our solar system here. And with a bit of sci-fi dread just thrown in. So hope you enjoy this. Please excuse me as now I shamelessly plug my Patreon. So if you want to support me, you can visit my Patreon for exclusive access to content and sample libraries which I make on a monthly basis. But also, be sure to join the Discord, and wow, don't forget to give a thumbs up, subscribe and all that YouTube shtick. And it's kind of weird plugging your stuff while this dreadful little drone just plays along. But I'm gonna say this. Most importantly, do have a great rest of your evening, morning, afternoon, whenever you might be watching. And I'll see you next time. So take care.